You're watching CBS Austin This Morning. Central Texas. Trusted.
Well, good morning. Our extended coverage of Ice Storm 2023 continues. This is the big story this morning. Cascading power outages. The Austin Energy dashboard now reporting 130,000 customers waking up in the dark. All that ice that fell overnight knocking down trees and power lines.
We spoke with Mac Mitchell with the Austin Energy this morning, and he says the crews are out there. They are working to get the lights back on. They ask that you just give them time and report any outages to them.
We'll take a look. Our traffic tracker caught a power outage in action in Austin. You can see a bright flash of green right there and then the lights going out in the entire area.
Yeah, and that's likely because of the ice accumulating on the power lines or even the tree limbs snapping under the weight of the ice and then falling onto the power lines. And we've seen a lot of that all over Central Texas. Good morning and thanks for joining us for our special extended coverage of Ice Storm 2023. I'm Allison Miller.
I'm John Carlos Estrada. Let's go out to our Jessica Taylor, who is live in Allendale. Jessica, a lot of the people in that neighborhood don't have power.
Yeah, that's right, John Carlos. We're still about 100 people that don't have power in this neighborhood. I'm not sure if you can hear the cracking, but the bigger news in this area is just the amount of tree limbs that are snapping off. So come take a walk with us. We're going to show you some of those tree limbs that are now on the ground. We have some smaller limbs that are breaking off just like this. We're going to be careful to not get directly under the trees just because we are hearing them crack so consistently. And then we have some of these larger limbs that are breaking off just like this one to my left right here. Now there are big, beautiful, and very old trees in this neighborhood, which means that sometimes we're hearing some giant cracking noises. Teddy, our photographer, is going up and you can see right where that snapped off of this specific tree. You can see all of the ice that's surrounding the tree, and several of the other branches are curving. That's what we're seeing across this neighborhood, these arches in these trees, which are not supposed to be there this prominent at least, but we're hearing every couple of minutes just various limbs breaking off. Power has been out since around 4:30 or 5 this morning. I spoke with two neighbors in the area that say, yeah, they're used to this, but they're hoping that the power comes back on at some point this evening. You can see that there's just ice all over the landscape in this area, and that's what neighbors in Allendale are waking up to, and other Central Texans. Back to you in the studio.
Jessica and the crews are working to get the lights back on, so just give them some time. Let's go over to Emily Chavez, who's in our traffic tracker.
Yeah, and you know, officials are saying keep the roads clear for essential workers like Emily, who's out checking the area right now. What have you been seeing driving around this morning, Em?
You know what, I'm not seeing a lot of cars, which is great. And we are passing, see a tech stock crew. Oh no, our camera's frozen, so I cannot move it side to side. That's kind of what we've been going through all this morning, just how quickly things have been icing over. But the roads, like I had mentioned, are fairly clear from the drivers, which is great, and especially leaving room for our essential workers, first responders, things like that. But again, it's still very slick. Anytime our photographer Riley gets on an elevated surface, we can feel how slick those roads get. It's kind of crazy. It's just from night and day how quick those roads get slippery. So it's just important to stay home if you can. All morning we've been seeing just the entire city of Austin and surrounding areas just covered in ice. We're having to dodge some tree branches here and there. Even some trees that have been drooping have been like kind of hitting our vehicle because it's so low. So that's just another concern if you are out and about and have to be to look out for. But yeah, we're northbound on Mopac. Looks great so far, but again, let's leave the roads for our essential workers. Live in the traffic tracker, Emily Chavez, CBS Austin News.
I think I'm going to call it North Pack and South Pack from now on. I want to show you what SH 130 looks like, a bird's eye view at FM 812. So you're cruising along here southbound, and then all of a sudden you hit one of these icy patches on the overpass. That's what you need to be prepared for. And through the icy bars of this winter blast, we're taking a look at I-35 northbound at 51st Street. Here's another shot, very similar, I-35 northbound at Renberg Lane. You know what I love about these? I don't see many cars out there. If any. So if you are watching from home, snuggled up and warm, not out on the roads, go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back. I'm sure the first responders are grateful. We do have a wreck on the northbound SH-130 toll at Tesla Road. This is a new one. We've still got one reported in the southbound direction on the toll at Blue Bluff, south of East Highway 290. And we had a string of crashes on South SH-45, a couple of them right here on FM 1625. Crews have been working a crash in Cedar Park on 1431 at Vista Ridge. Following that crash, TxDOT added that location to their list of spots where there is ice on the roadway. 1431 at Arrow Point, which is just west of that crash. Unfortunately, sometimes crashes are the way that we do find out that roadways are iced over, so wherever you're headed, be ready for it.
All right, thank you, Sophia. TxDOT out with some strongly suggested advice. Avoid travel unless you absolutely must. As we've been showing you all morning, there's icy conditions everywhere. And yes, crews are working on it, but the ongoing rain is making it difficult.
It sure is. Brad Wheelis with TxDOT is joining us live this morning to talk about what we're dealing with. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning.
Okay, so lots of ice all over the area. What is the main threat right now, or what are you guys working on right now?
Well, we continue to de-ice. That's the word of the day. We've got a lot of wet roadways out there. Of course, the elevated structures, the flyovers, the bridges, your elevated highways, those are always a concern, so we concentrate on those areas. And then as we go out west, we saw RM 1431 and some of the hill country. They're getting colder weather and more freezing rain, and so those are areas that we're concentrating on.
Brad, I know that your crews are working around the clock. What exactly are they doing? Are they treating the roads again with sand and brine?
They treat the roads with a granular substance. This is a de-icer. So usually the brine goes on as a pre-treatment that's laid down on the roadway before the storm arrives, and then that lowers the temperature at which ice or water freezes, and it prevents it from bonding. And so we use the brine. Usually it's a pre-treatment, but we can come back and use it to treat the roadways if necessary. And we're doing that in some cases. So we're trying to throw everything at this storm until we get out of this mess tomorrow.
Brad, I know the main word is if you don't have to go out on the roads, don't. But if there are viewers watching at home that have a trip they just can't avoid, what's your best advice? Just drive slow and assume it's icy?
Yes, that's perfect advice. So if you must travel, and we know there are essential workers, or there are certain circumstances where you need to get out on the roadway, be sure to slow down significantly. And even if the roadway appears to be okay, you're going to run into some slick spots, some icy patches. Just know that heading out the door. So slow down, leave plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you. You don't know what the other vehicles are going to do. If they spin out or slide across the roadway in front of you, you need time to take evasive action. You need space to do that as well. Don't use your cruise control, and don't slam on the brakes if you hit a slick spot. So those are some of the basic rules. Go to drivetexas.org before you head out. Check out the conditions, because there's a large area of Texas where we're experiencing these icy conditions.
Brad, is there anything else we want to let our viewers know? I know Avery was saying we just really got to just get through today, and then the weather will get better.
Exactly. We got to get through today and then morning drive tomorrow. So depending on what the weather does, we could see similar conditions again in the morning, because we're expecting that rain overnight, as you saw in the forecast. So we're not out of the woods. It won't be out of the woods until tomorrow. So stay off the roads. If you don't have to travel, keep yourself safe.
It's worth repeating.
Yep, light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. All right, thank you, Brad. That was Brad Wheelis with TxDOT.
All right, your time now is 9:09. This is a live look over at Lake Travis. Man, that's just
icy. Lake
reminding
Travis.
you winter is still here. By the way, if you do have a flight out of ABIA, know that they are saying that there's no accumulation of ice on the airfield, but they have crews working the roadways and walkways. Expect more cancellations and delays to continue, and really be careful getting to the airport. Our team coverage of Ice Storm 2023 continues after this.
Your time now is 9:13 on this Wednesday morning. This is our very own Trevor Scott, I believe. A look outside his window, a tree here. He says it sounds and feels like these limbs are barely hanging on.
I think that's pretty much everybody's home around Central Texas. Thanks for sending that in, Trevor. We have a few more pictures to show you across the area as well, but a lot of them just showing the weight of the ice on the trees. He's lucky that all the branches are still there. This is a half-inch accumulation, and this is up in northwest Travis County, up at Great Oaks Farm.
Yep, no power this morning. A lot of you telling us that you're in the dark right now.
Yeah, over 130,000 Austin Energy customers. We just got an update, Avery, that says that people could be without power for 12 to 24 hours as the ice storm continues.
I would venture to say it's going to take longer than that. That's how long it took back in February 2021 when we first had an ice storm before the blackouts, when there were just 30 to 40,000 people without power through Austin Energy. Now we're over 130,000, so you can imagine it's going to take longer for the crews to clean up and get those power lines and transformers repaired after numerous transformers were just popping all over the city of Austin. It looked like a thunderstorm was coming through, but it was just transformers lighting up the night sky. That's why freezing rain is the worst. It's not sleet, it's not snow. I would rather us have sleet this morning. Would have been fun, and those little sleet pellets, they just fall through the tree harmlessly. But when you have freezing rain, that's liquid water freezing on contact with below freezing surfaces like the leaves of a tree and sticking to everything, weighing it all down. That's why everything is iced over from our Honda Round Rock weather camera. These are icicles in the foreground. One of our last cameras that we even have a good view of anything with, so you get to enjoy it for a while. Unfortunately, in Austin, 31 degrees on the thermometer. We have since dropped again. Georgetown, you're dropping again. Bummer, because we got more rain on the move. Let me show you what's going on. This is light stuff over towards Highway 281. We got another batch of heavier rain, and it's becoming more expansive down here south of I-10. Our computer model data is not picking up on this very well, so we're kind of in no man's land. I would say it's safe to assume this does come to Austin and it does create more ice. I'll show you what that could mean coming up in a bit.
I have new information from the Round Rock Police Department about some closures due to ice on those elevated roadways. Of course, they do include all of the flyovers at I-35 and North SH 45. 45 exits for Greenlawn and for La Frontera are all closed down. The exit on northbound I-35 to FM 620 is closed down. There are also closures on 620 at Chisholm Trail and at Memorial Park. The 183A toll is closed in its entirety, all the way from North SH 45 up to Leander in both directions. This is a look at the fire incidents report page. I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. It looks like there are about 30 right now. A lot of those are wires arcing. And here's why. The weight of that ice on those trees we've been telling you about. You can see it here just tugging on our power lines off of Metric Boulevard in North Austin. We've also got trees blocking roadways like here. This picture was taken by the city of Lakeway. Be careful as you come around bends and things like that. And with those power outages, you're going to come across some dark traffic signals. You want to treat those as always stops. I want to use this iced over camera on 183 at North Lamar Boulevard to let you know if your windshield still looks like this when you leave the house, then you still need to do some work. It's really important to make sure you get your windshield completely clear. Also want to clear your rear view mirror as well, because chances are as you head out at one point, you are going to have to change lanes.
All right, thanks, Sophia. Your time now is 9:17 on this Wednesday morning. Monitoring the widespread power outages across Central Texas, Austin Energy now reporting 135,000 people waking up in the dark. And this is all due to the ice bringing down those power lines and tree limbs.
Yeah, I know crews are facing icy roads and frozen equipment. That's making it really hard to get an estimated time for this all to come back online. So they're saying prepare to be without power for 12 to possibly 24 hours. Our coverage of the ice storm continues. If you do lose power, we are streaming this newscast so you can stay up to date on Facebook, CBS Austin. We're back in 2 minutes.
Time now is 9:21. Our extended coverage of Ice Storm 2023 continues. This is the big story that we keep monitoring, cascading power outages. The Austin Energy dashboard now reporting 134,000 customers waking up without power. All of the ice that fell overnight knocking down trees and power lines. Crews facing some hazards out there. frozen equipment, making it really difficult to bring the power back on. It's causing some customers to possibly not have lights and power for 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah, so we could be going a day without power. And then this map shows Encore, about 60,000 customers in our area without power. And they're saying the same thing. Their crews are out there trying to get the repairs done as the weather allows. If you do have an outage, you could report it to Encore.
So let's take a look at this. This is HEB. This is probably Monday or Tuesday when a lot of the people were going to the store to get some of the essentials like bread, milk, and eggs. And just into the newsroom, all of the HEBs in Austin and Central Texas will reopen at 10 a.m. today. If you're out in the Hill Country, they reopened at 8 a.m. and curbside and home delivery, that's going to be limited depending on where you're at.
It's 9:22. Our team coverage of the ice storm 2023 continues after this.
9:25 on this frigid Wednesday morning. We've got some new crashes to warn you about. Watch for one out on southbound Highway 183 at Burnett Road. We've got a wreck working on William Cannon at Brody Lane and another one on your side roads at Guadalupe and West 28th Street. Also, earlier crashes are still clearing on the northbound SH-130 toll at Tesla Road and on southbound SH-130 at Blue Bluff after East Highway 290. And we've had a string of crashes along South SH-45, the latest eastbound at FM 1625. That's one roadway I'd just avoid altogether if you can this morning. We had a wreck on 1431 at Vista Ridge shortly after we had some updates with ice reported there on 1431 in the Cedar Park area just west of Palmer Lane. We've got ice on SH-130 at 79, FM 685 at Riverwalk out in Hutto, North SH-45 at SH-130. Just to name a few, just be extra cautious, especially out on those overpasses. Avery, this icy grip not letting up yet.
Unfortunately, no, it is not, Sophia, and we still have a long way to go as well, the way I look at it. Here's what's happened ever since last night. About midnight, that's when the heavy rain moved in, and it has accumulated like nobody's business. To see this much rainfall when temperatures are this cold is unusual, but here it is, estimated by radar between a ½ inch to about 1.5 inches. Now, is all of this accumulated as ice on trees, power lines, etc.? No, but most of it is. We're talking about ½ inch or higher accumulations across much of central Texas. And unfortunately, the worst of it came right here along I-35 out of the entire Lone Star State. That's pretty mean. You put a ½ inch layer of ice on a 300-foot long power line, it's heavy, 281 pounds. That's hefty, but not that much relative to what that means when you put that much ice on a tree. It's covered in leaves. Remember, trees are covered in leaves to maximize surface area, soak up the sun. It also collects a lot of ice. So you do that, same ½ inch layer of ice, you're looking at on a 30-foot wide tree, 2.5 Honda Civics worth of added weight, like hanging those from the branches. Of course, they're going to cascade down, and they have been all morning long in dramatic fashion, and they continue to do so even after sunrise, because check this out. Temperatures have actually fallen by another 1 to 2 degrees since sunrise, which is not good. And that's happening as more rain is going to be moving in from the south here before long. Just a little sprinkle moving through downtown Austin right now. A bit more moving into the southern hill country, but this is what I'm going to watch most closely. East of San Antonio, approaching I-10, an expanding batch of heavier rain that is going to be moving our direction. And the way I see it now, I think that's going to get here while temperatures are still below freezing. Temperatures are not going to recover above freezing, I think, until after this afternoon. Eventually, though, brighter days are ahead. We'll talk more about that, plus much more to talk about as this ice storm and the impacts associated with it continue. Our special coverage continues after this.
You're watching CBS Austin This Morning. Central Texas. Trusted.
Time now is 9:31. If you're just waking up, this is the big story this morning. Hundreds of thousands of Central Texans in the dark. The Austin Energy dashboard now reporting 136,000 customers waking up without power. All of the ice that fell overnight knocking down trees and power lines.
Yeah, Austin Energy crews are facing some hazards like frozen equipment that's slowing them down. Customers might be without power for 12 to 24 hours. You might have just heard a little bit of Avery, who thinks it could be a little bit longer. We are definitely not done with the ice yet. And that other map you saw was Encore, a lot of customers without power up in Williamson County. Speaking of Wilco, it is an all-hands-on-deck situation after County Judge Bill Gravel issued a disaster declaration. Looking to the past, Gravel says he just wants to make sure that they have all the resources necessary to assist if needed. Good morning and thanks for joining us here at CBS Austin for our special extended coverage of this Ice Storm 2023. I'm Allison Miller.
I'm John Carlos Estrada. Joining us on the phone is Connie Odom, the Public Information Officer for Williamson County. Good morning, Connie.
Good morning.
Connie, the ice definitely not letting up. What are you seeing right now up in Williamson County?
Well, a lot of what we're seeing is falling tree limbs. And so our road and bridge crews are out clearing limbs off roadways in addition to sanding and de-icing areas to keep our emergency services moving and to keep the hospital's driveways clear. So really the tree limbs are a big concern right now. And also we're seeing an increase in calls regarding falls. So we're encouraging people not to step outside, just kind of take a look around. Please be very careful. Sidewalks and driveways are slick with the ice right now, just like the roads are. It's better for people to stay safe and stay inside.
Yeah, some of the roads may be treated, but you might have not treated your own driveway area.
I just heard from my husband who says that he and the dogs kind of slipped as they were going outside. So
it's dangerous.
Connie, what are your expectations as we progress throughout the day?
Well, we're just going to be keeping to this same pattern. We've got our crews working 12-hour days. We're going to be monitoring the situation. We do want to tell people, though, as tree limbs continue to maybe break and there are more outages, to call their power provider. Do not call 911. So if you have a power outage, there are numbers for your power provider for you to call. That's not something that 911 can help with, and then that helps us keep the phone lines open for people who are having emergencies.
And Connie, as far as that disaster declaration, you want people to report issues in their area.
Yes, so the downed limbs can also affect property. They could have broken pipes that are affecting their homes. And so that damage needs to be reported to the Texas Division of Emergency Management. And on the TDEM website, there's a place to report that. The disaster declaration allows us to open up portions of our emergency management plan for recovery. And so helping report the damage adds to the total amount of damage in the area. And we have a certain threshold we have to pass before we are eligible for certain services. So we encourage people to report their damage.
Connie, do you have any other advice for our viewers as they get ready to go about their day? Hopefully, of course, staying home.
That would be the big advice, is stay home. Don't go out unless you have to. We know there are essential workers and there are emergency personnel who need to go out, and we are trying to keep the roads open and safe for them. But otherwise, we encourage people to stay home, continue to protect their pipes, make sure they are dripping water if they need to do that, or they have pipes covered. But don't go outside if you can help it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good advice there. Thank you, Connie. That was Connie Odom with Williamson County.
Thank you.
Well, here's a look at those outage maps again. Austin Energy customers, 136,000 of them.
It went down for a second there, and now it came back up.
Yeah. Meanwhile, over on Encore, was it 60,000 or so in the dark?
Yeah, I think up in Williamson County, about 20,000. But overall, a lot of people that are waking up to no power this morning. Of course, the ice storm to blame with those heavy ice limbs on the trees and the power lines. Crews are trying to get those fixed as well.
Let's go to our Jessica Taylor, who's live in Allendale in Central Austin, and she's seeing the coated trees and limbs firsthand.
Yeah, that's right. And Allison said, it's already a nice day. Let's make it an arm day. She wanted to see how heavy some of these tree limbs were out on the ground, so we're going to show you some of them. Here are two examples. I went for the lighter options, but as you can see, there are several of these limbs just out and about. Not only am I picking up these two, there are some behind me. You can just see how frozen everything is on these limbs. They range in size, and there are even some bigger ones behind me that I'm not going to attempt to pick up. But I'll use this one as a pointer and show you this tree behind me. You can see that several of the branches are snapping off. They're either already on the ground or they're just dangling there, okay? This is one of the bigger trees on this block, and I have seen the limbs fall from it at multiple points this morning. You keep hearing these cracking noises everywhere in the neighborhood, and you're just seeing where it's coming from. But this ice is really weighing down these branches. And as we were getting some shots of this tree, the resident in this property came outside and he was basically telling me that despite what it looks like, they are doing just fine, but they do hope that the power comes back on soon. Sending it back to you in the studio.
And working out.
Exactly.
I'm just helping her out there.
Our trees have been through so much these last 3 years.
I know. It's really scary, especially with the zombie trees that I know some people were asking about. Those are definitely going to be dangerous.
Let's go to Emily Chavez, who's been in our traffic tracker all morning long.
Yeah, and Emily, we were just talking about how, or with Connie, how they're, we're trying to keep the roads open for first responders and essential workers like yourself. And you're saying, unlike yesterday, there's fewer people out there.
Yes, and actually we just passed some Texas Department of Transportation workers just getting the roads ready for when hopefully more people can get on them. But yes, so far we haven't seen nearly as many people on the roads compared to yesterday. This is kind of what you can expect if you are an essential worker and do have to be on the roads. It's still very slick, but the major thing is to take it slow, and especially on those elevated surfaces. We have Riley driving here, and he's doing an excellent job of going slow and making sure there's enough space between the car in front of us. But yeah, not nearly as many drivers on the road. Thankfully, we have seen a couple of branches on the road and just traveling on the streets near downtown Austin too. A lot of branches on the roads hanging low because of that ice buildup. So if you do have to go, just make sure you're careful of that. And always remember, try to have your headlights on just for better visibility for any drivers on the road as well. That's something that I have seen is people not with their headlights on. So just kind of a reminder. But yeah, so far so good with people on the roads, but just stay home and stay safe if you can. Live in the traffic tracker, Emily Chavez, CBS Austin News.
All but mighty, that traffic track, you can hear how it's struggling through that ice.
Everything's freezing over, but I think a lot of people saw how many crashes we saw yesterday. There goes a fire truck, and hopefully people heeding those warnings. We're back with more team coverage here of the Ice Storm 2023.